Kevin Vicker here with National Stroke Association, and I'm joined by Burk Ford, who is a stroke survivor that has been affected by pseudobulbar effect, which is going to be one of the main focuses of our conversation today. So, Burk, how are we doing today?
Oh, just fine.
So I wanted to get things started and just tell us about your stroke. How long ago was it, and kind of what happened when all that went down for you?
Well, like many people, the stroke was a complete surprise. I was sitting on top of the world, living a good life one day, and the next day I was in the hospital. I refused to believe that. I thought it must have been some joke that went bad. But no, it's for real. I really did have a stroke. And that changed everything. I mean, everything changed. I was no longer the all-American boy. I was lucky to move around in a wheelchair. So I would say that is one of the stroke is one of the turning points in my life.
Yeah, and we often hear that with different stroke survivors. So let's go ahead and kind of dig into one of the reasons that we're talking today, and that is that we know that one of the post-stroke conditions affecting you is the pseudobulbar effect, which is, we'll pretty much just call that PBA because that's a little bit easier to say. And a lot of people, they don't know what this is. They don't know what PBA is, and it often goes undiagnosed. So just in your own words, Burk, can you explain what PBA is?
I didn't know. I never heard of PBA before. And I went to a high school reunion. I had a best friend who had become an admiral in the Navy. And he was speaking to our class. And of course, I felt emotional. I admired him. And I had a lot of respect for him. And lo and behold, I was crying the whole time. It wasn't that I was sad. It was just raw emotion. And it expressed itself as crying. Now, I could have won the lottery and $1 million, and I would still cry about it. So, crying was not something I could control. I tried to stop, but no, I couldn't. I just went on and on and on. Crying like a baby.
Yeah, and a lot of people, especially, for guys, good old country boy like you, it's not really something that you often would necessarily do is cry. It's sometimes kind of seen as something guys shouldn't do. So was it difficult for you to accept that you were crying all the time when this first started happening and you didn't know what was going on?
Oh, yes, Kevin. Very much so. I was only a high school football player, but I was a great football player. I mean, the guy that I mentioned earlier and I played together, and when we went through a lot of tough practice, and the big candies all cried about it. They whined and said, "Oh, poor me, I'm going to die," and all that. Well, we thought crying was a sign of weakness, and I never saw anyone in my home cry. I rarely saw any men cry. And so it was a cultural thing. I was trained to view crying as a sort of weakness.
Certainly, crying can be something that would be a result of PBA, but there are also, really it's characterized by just maybe inappropriate or just unusual emotions for the situation. Sometimes it can also be outbursts of laughing. Are there other emotions that you have experienced besides the crying in your case? It may be, those inappropriate times?
Yes, there are two. If I was talking to my wife this morning, if a sage thought crosses my mind, I'll start crying. It just has to be something on TV maybe that is said or sad thought, and I'll find myself crying. On the other hand, I will think of something funny, or I will PJ recently. I got the weeks mixed up. And as a result, I got the times of my appointment mixed up. And I thought I was right, and I was mad about it. So I blasted the hospital. I blasted my therapist. I blasted the scheduling people. Really, that was because I had made a mistake, not them. It was my mistake. Now, you can do that, Kevin, a couple of times, and people will forgive you. But if you do that very often, you're going to find yourself with hurt feelings. People take it personally.
Yeah, and that's certainly a good illustration, I think, of why it's important to know what PBA is and to be able to explain to the people around you, your friends and family and others, what's going on. But that's one of the things about PBA is not only do sometimes the stroke survivor doesn't know what's going on with their emotions and what PBA is, but oftentimes it's very difficult for other people to identify what's going on as well. Has that ever been an issue for you?
Now, PBA is very dangerous because you can look at me and you can see I have mobility problems, I have speech problems, I have many problems, but they're all obvious. You know what you're getting, what you're dealing with. With PBA, you have no way of knowing. It's a hidden mystery to you.
So here you are, you've had a stroke, and you're doing these strange instances to laugh or to cry, and you don't really know what's going on. So at what point did you become aware of what PBA was?
Well, the way I was able to tell I had PBA was a couple of days later, I would reflect on what I said. I thought, man, I didn't do that, did I? Was that really me? I said all of that. I couldn't have said that. That is totally inappropriate. I pursued a molehill and made a mountain of it. Why did I do that? So I can be angry about a small thing and justifiably so. But I will escalate the anger. It will turn to rage, and I will inevitably hurt someone's feelings. And I'm very sorry I did that.
Yeah, and the uncontrollable aspect of the PBA emotions is something that can kind of rear its ugly head there, and I think that's sort of what you're alluding to. Now, the one final thing I wanted to ask you about is, and I know this is an issue for you that you have a lot of passion about, is that many stroke survivors do struggle to return to work following a stroke. So what has kind of been your experience with that as you have tried to get into work and volunteer opportunities since your stroke?
I have two sets of friends, Kevin. I have friends who knew me before the stroke, and I have friends who knew me after the stroke. Now, the people who knew me before my stroke, they see me as I was without a stroke. And the people who know me after the stroke, they have always had a stroke. Well, I'm saying that we want our years to be longer and our quality of life to be better. And we've got to be robust. We can't be sedentary.
Yeah, and for many people, they talk about how recovery is a lifelong process, and a lot of people who are stroke survivors want returning to work to be part of that recovery process. So, Burk, wanted to thank you for taking some time to chat with us. You had some very good insights into what it's like to have PBA, and hopefully that'll help people understand a little bit more about a condition that, as we mentioned earlier, often goes undiagnosed.